And so, of course, the politics of the day are going to say that we can't do gay, so to speak. It's been the discussion now over the last couple of weeks since the entire congressional investigation into the higher education institutes of Harvard, MIT, UPenn, and these three presidents did the shameful act of not quickly, unequivocally, just negating anything that had to do with actions, activities, threats against Jewish folks on these campuses because of the rise of antisemitism, which is what Congress is investigating, and famously, Elisa Stefanik really dug in to these presidents, resulting in the head of UPenn, I believe, McGill, resigning, of course, keeping her high-paid job in the university, and now following up with Claudine Gay, finally reaching the point of pressure, probably from the Harvard Corporation and from inside academia, to step to the side. Why? Because probably the money is now drying up. But this is not a matter of, the right, or anybody for that matter, is going after her as a woman or her as a black woman, but more so, as I keep drilling down on, that there is a real tenuous relationship with the truth. That's all we're trying to find in this world, because everybody has a very bad relationship with the truth. And that is the crux of this entire problem. People should not be tribally getting back into their corners, and everybody is trying to just categorically align themselves with a particular group or faction. And this problem has become a pervasive problem in society now. So it wasn't just the fact that this is a person that didn't come out quickly against anti-Semitism to say, listen, any acts against another group, threats or calls to action of threat to harm another person is unequivocally unacceptable. There was just this dance around the semantical nonsense that all three of these presidents did in front of Stefanik in her particular time to query these folks. And they just didn't come right out and say, if there is any call of physical harm to any body, any group, we take immediate action. We review it. They will be spoken to, written up, suspended, removed from the university if that's the case. They didn't just come out quickly and say that. It was this whole semantical game where they were not keeping their eyes on their own paper, and what did they eventually end up doing is they ended up just doing the dance, and then what happened in a result. They all had to walk it back later because they probably had public relations folks that said, listen, you got to clean this up. You got to say, hey, listen, you just denounce anti-Semitism against or any group. But in this case, the real question was the rising anti-Semitism, this pro-Palestinian message of from the river to the sea, which is really just a genocide annihilation of the Jewish state. No right to self-determination and existence, just in a complete genocidal elimination of the Jewish state. And that really was the crux of this entire problem and argument that resulted with them having to step down. But now, of course, it has to come down to semantical arguments about race. Well, she was being pressured because it's racism. They're coming after her because of her skin color. No, coming after you because you just didn't immediately call for the elimination of any language, or we're going to take action against people that are threatening this group of people. But now all of a sudden, she's trying to claim that she's stepping down because of these actions against her. Yeah, do you see what we're saying? That's the problem. And I say what we're saying, meaning that's what the truth is calling for. Just use the same standard across the board. And so, but of course, Al Sharpton has to get involved just to race hustle and stir up the pot and the angry swarm of bees, because why not continue to keep dividing people, as opposed to saying she should have came out against anti-Semitism, because racism or anti-Semitism or any calls for physical harm to another group is wrong in all forms. He could just say that and we could all live in harmony, but no, he's got to just stir up the hornet's nest and create a problem. And an ESPN anchor went on with Jesse Waters to give her opinion about this. Let's go to that interview and then discuss it in a minute when we get back. Here we go.
Of color in this country thinks, believes how they should live, how they should act, how they should vote. I just wish he would go away. Maybe 50 years ago. Right now, he is the wrong person to be speaking for anything. Remember Martin Luther King, Mr. Sharpton? I think you do. Judge me by the content of my character, not the color of my skin. And what happened with Claudine Gay?
All right, so let's go ahead and just stop it there.
Which is why she was forced to step down.
All right, so here is really the crux of all of it. It's not a racism issue or an issue of what the color of her skin is. Who cares? The first person that got pushed out of this whole thing was from UPenn, was McGill, a white gal. Okay, it's a question of integrity. Plagiarism. If there was any student on campus that plagiarized to this level, and Lord only knows how she was able to then rise to the level of leading the entire university. And the real question is, how did nobody come up with this information until all these many years later? That in and of itself is a totally different question. Why it's coming out now, who knows why. But it's not a question of, racism to get this woman out. It's a whole thing. She brought it on herself, okay? Because she just didn't come out and denounce the anti-Semitism straight away, okay? It was all this kind of like, theater and semantical dancing. God knows why. I have no reason to question what the whole thing was. You can only just judge by what happened in front of your face. But it's a whole character issue. Not only did you not denounce the anti-Semitism, but you're a plagiarist also, and you should be probably squeaky clean if you're going to lead that entire academic university. But on top of that, you brought on these problems yourself. It's certainly not about racism. Let's finish this.
There's so many things that are disappointing to me, Jesse, about this story. And I think just from today's news, better late than never, I guess, right? And the fact that it took the plagiarism instead of what happened with Elise Stefanik is disturbing in its own right. But when you look through the entire letter that Harvard sent to its community, eventually towards the end, they mentioned, okay, she has taken responsibility for some mistakes. But what did they do that stood out to me the most? They denounced the racist attacks that were apparently coming Claudine Gay's way, as they should. Any racist attacks should be denounced. They did that so clearly and swiftly in that letter. What about Claudine Gay herself? When she was being asked, how many times by Elise Stefanik, is it wrong? Do you denounce any anti-Semitic comments, any about the genocide of Jews students on your campus? And she couldn't even answer that clearly. She refused to answer it. So to me, I don't have that much sympathy. And no, I don't feel like I need to stand up for her because of the color of her skin, because her character, to me, is so much more concerning. And she, and Harvard as a whole, has let America down.
And therein, folks, is the hypocrisy to it all. In that, listen, there's no one saying that anybody that was making racist remarks or making threats against Ms. Gay, that's acceptable. It's unacceptable, completely unacceptable. But the fact that in her resignation, she came out very clearly to promote the idea that there's racism and that there shouldn't be this kind of racism and that there was this kind of racism rhetoric that was forcing her to step down is nonsensical. But they did that real fast, and they did it very clearly, very understandably, and that's all that should have happened in the beginning. Any kinds of threats against anybody in society, on campus, in the workplace, out in the world, is wrong. Real simple. And I'm a total moron. And I could say that this fast.